All right then. Check. You're working. All right. How's it going, Daniel?
Hey, pretty good, pretty good.
All right. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me in your studio.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
studio beneath the stars, I
yeah,
like to call.
nice. Yeah, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So first off, I guess tell me where you're from. Tell me a little about
Um,
yourself.
um, okay. My name is Daniel Josley. I'm from Shonto, Arizona. I am Reed people, born for near the water. My maternal grandfathers are Zuni Edgewater, and my paternal grandfathers are Red Running Into Water. It's in this way I'm a Navajo and a human being. And my my current mediums at the moment are mural art, spray paint, house paint, acrylic, a lot of acrylic, different types of acrylic that I like to experiment with. Canvas painting. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay,
Daniel, tell me
we're
a
back.
little bit about where the inspiration comes from.
My inspiration pretty much comes from here, the motherland, where I grew up. Just, you know, as a child, it was running through the canyons and where I come from pretty much. So I can push and pull with a lot of the ideas that I have around in these parts.
Yeah, I see. Is that what about the desire or the passion for the art that you do? Like when you were a kid, did you just pick up a pen and you saw it differently, or?
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't really a passion back then. It was growing up with no electricity or running water, you have to find things to do, and a lot of it was playing. Didn't really have a lot of paper to draw on, so that wasn't really anything that I did when I was a child. But like when I first started out drawing, it really didn't I didn't really know where I was going with it until I kind of came back home. It was like an eye opener, just remembering everything that I used to do growing up, and using that to kind of tell my story with the mediums and the paintings that I do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I see. So I think I remember listening to this podcast a while back, and have you ever heard of Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No. No,
So
I'm
he's
sorry.
a world-renowned astrophysicist, and he loves art as much as he does like obsessing over science and the world beyond what Earth is. He spends a lot of time talking about artists, and he loves purchasing art from artists, really because he loves seeing. I think he would actually love your art. He he's obsessed with Starry Night. Do you remember that, the art?
Yeah,
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 so he's obsessed with Starry Night, and one of his description as to why he loved it was you're seeing what the artist sees. Because if you were to just draw the night sky, everybody can draw the night sky. Everybody
yeah,
has an
yeah,
idea, but he drew something so abstract and so different. Or I wouldn't say abstract, but he drew like what he sees.
yeah,
And so I kind of had that. I had that thought coming to your place. I was wondering if, like, when you draw these things, is it something? Is it what you see? Like, is it how you feel when you begin a blank canvas? Is because obviously, like some of the work I see here, it's not something you see outside normally. It's got to be something from your eyes
yeah,
that's unique. Is that kind
yeah.
of how you see a blank canvas?
Um, as far as the feeling, I don't really think I'm there's a feeling to what I do in the beginning. Like you were saying, um, far different than a night sky painting or a regular kind of painting. I think it's about having that dream or that spark or that idea to get started. And most times when I start a painting, it's I would start the same painting several times before I actually really get into the detail which direction I'm gonna find myself going with that particular painting.
Yeah.
So I guess I've always come back to say that the colors and the colors are the ones, the idea that actually keeps changing my idea.
Really.
Because some people have an idea and they'll get a paper and a pencil and they'll start sketching it.
Uh-huh.
But what I actually start doing is I actually start just painting, almost in an abstract style,
Yeah.
until I guess that feeling that you're talking about kind of happens. So I'm searching for it as I start.
Nice.
So
You know, like being artistic is really one of those talents that I really, really wish I had, because I genuinely enjoy paintings. My wife, she's one who likes to buy these things, like buy paintings, and for a while I had a hard time at like, why would you buy it? But then we went to Vegas one time and I saw this guy who seemed completely oblivious to the outside, to the world around him, but he was just painting. He was painting skylines and things like that, and he was using. He was like in a way, it almost looked like he was dancing. You know, it was very poetic, and he had this huge crowd around him, and that's kind of where I was awe-stricken, and I was staying there like just blown away by this guy who was in his own world, surrounded by people, but he had everything blocked out. You could see, you could almost see it in his eyes, and he had this vision, and it was amazing to see. You know.
yeah.
Have you ever done anything like that? Do you ever do like live shows, or kind of give people an example of what goes through?
I love doing live shows, but at the same time, I think I'm different that way, as to being how I'm separate as far as like people going to shows, doing live shows. I don't mind doing that, but I kind of I don't know if it's a bad thing to say that I don't really enjoy going to art shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So in some weird way, I don't. Yeah, but for instance, the murals that I do, it's I'm alone, no distractions, and pretty much putting on the wall whatever I see and want to show everybody. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, I got you. So what kind of art do you do? Like, do you strictly do paintings, or are you kind of into the arts of going into like sculptures, even poetry, music? You know, what other art are you into?
Did a lot of guitar playing, music, getting my kids into it, and they kind of they're a mirror for me to bounce back off of. Listening to what they're doing kind of inspires me too. Just their energy, and so music plays a lot in what I do. So I have to have music when I'm painting.
I see.
And I guess the main focus of it would just be painting.
Just painting?
Yeah. Apart from my other hobbies as far as crafting, woodworking, or working with metal. My kids and I do some metal forging, so we're always tinkering around with making knives or different devices, or anything that we can pretty much make with woodworking.
Yeah.
But it's always just been kind of painting for me. But yeah.
I see. Do your kids have I don't want to say talent, but like does the apple fall far from the tree?
Oh no, they're right there. They're very, very artistic.
Really?
My youngest, he just kind of I don't know. They all surprise me in their own unique way.
Yeah.
One's super detailed. One at a young age is telling a story with his drawing. Another one is just like really I don't know. There's like a balance. It has to be symmetrical in a lot of the work that he does. So it's always something that kind of pushes me to see what I can do to get that idea across for them to see what I'm doing as well.
Uh-huh. Man, again, I'm jealous. I think as far as art, the only thing I could ever get into was in middle school and like high school. I was obsessed with music. You know, I genuinely enjoyed music. So when I got into like college, I took this poetry class, and man, I fell in love with it. I loved writing poetry for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think from college onto I'd say the birth, a little after the birth of my first son, I wrote like one or two poems about my son, but I strayed away from poetry. But again, like this, as far as the only thing I can do artistic is for me was poetry.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. What kind of equipment do you use? Do you stick to like maybe like the canvases and paint, or have you tried getting into like those iPad Pros with the Apple Pen or things like that? Or
I wish I could.
yeah.
I don't look at myself as somebody who's really who can articulate, you know, devices.
Uh-huh.
And my kids know a lot more about that than I do. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, if I had the funds to buy that kind of stuff, I would, but I just their needs are more important before mine. So
Gotcha.
if we ever get to that point, maybe I'll buy some kind of tablet that I could draw with.
Uh-huh. I see. Yeah, I've seen some pretty cool ones. So I think we kind of touched on this a little earlier, but like, what's the mentality before, during, and after these projects? When you go into them, do you kind of go into them like, well, I don't want to say mentality. I mean, maybe not going into, but when you're locked in here, do you kind of exclude yourself from what goes on outside, and then are you in here for hours at a time, or
Oh no.
do you kind of invite your kids to come in and out to?
I'm used to switching it on and off.
Uh-huh.
I kind of taught myself that as I started doing a lot of these murals, because a lot of them are really, the ones that I've done are hands-on. I don't really take the time to think about it, and like I said, once I start seeing those colors, I can actually push and pull it and create something within just that, in that moment.
Yeah.
And I can switch it off, go inside and go eat, or haul some woods, come back and just turn it right back on and start painting again. So
Gotcha. But as far as like family, you don't mind them popping in and out?
no. It's kind of an everyday thing.
Gotcha. Do you have like any projects you've done with your kids where you've worked on it together, or?
Yeah, I've done a mural in Black Mesa with my son Caleb.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the smaller paintings, like the simple 5x7s or 8x10s, I'll set it all up for them first, and then we'll jump back and forth. And of course, they want to do it perfect the first time, and I'm teaching them how, like, just to play with it and maybe even change it after.
Yeah.
So
I see.
So I guess it's good. It's really good, because you can't really focus on something 100% and get it done exactly how you want, because you need a break every now and then, and they do that for me.
Gotcha. So you know how like with like with a lot of Navajo arts and crafts, traditionally speaking, they say to like not make your work perfect, but they say to leave a little mistake, because not honestly, yeah, I guess they say to leave a little mistake only because when you traditionally speaking, when you immerse yourself in a project and you become obsessed with perfection, the traditional definition of that is you actually get lost in your work, and you can, I don't know if it's speaking literally, but I was always told if you immerse yourself into something way too much and you actually start painting, and in some cases it was and back then it was weaving, but you would actually put yourself into the art and you would become trapped there and you go crazy. How do you kind of work with that mentality? Was that what you mean by like take a break, things like that, or try not to put
Yeah.
yourself too much into it?
Yeah. I don't look at what I do and as a perfectionist or in any way. Um, I still feel that I'm learning all that I can from anybody that I encounter and have the privilege of working with. And I teach my kids that too, to not be perfect, to not to get too obsessive with detail.
Yeah.
I would tell them you have your whole life to fix anything you want, and you can always come back later and do small touch-ups on different parts of their lives or their work.
Yeah.
And so they got plenty of time for that, as young as they are.
Yeah, got you. I was looking at your Facebook page, and just even looking around here, I've noticed that a lot of your work has to do with horned toad. Is there a significance behind why your work, not a lot, why it is, but a lot of your work has to do with the horned toad?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I'm going to go back further.
Definitely.
In the beginning, when I started painting, it was pretty much trying to pay the bills, and I was teaching myself, and I needed to, what every artist would do is try to find themselves. And so I started playing with different mediums, different techniques, YouTubing a lot with, sunset paintings or animal, different types of landscape paintings. And coming home back to Arizona, because I used to live in North Dakota, and I always went back to the first day when I started, because it was a year after my grandfather passed away that I picked up a pencil and paper and started sketching him by memory. And in that moment, I always remembered that I was focused, and I had that family mind, almost like I had a direction somewhere I was supposed to be and found.
Yeah.
So, trying to find my technique and everything, that I started to find myself coming back to always painting my grandfather. But at the same time, I also remember my childhood memories of my grandfather. And most of them, when I really would sit there and listen to my grandfather, is when he would tell a story. And in most cases, sometimes when we're down the canyon herding sheep, when we were fortunate enough, we found a horned toad. And that memory, that little conversation that we had, just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so my first attempt at painting a horned toad, it was almost like time traveling for me. It was a way for me to be right there with my grandfather again. So I realized it was in my best moment, where I'm creating and I'm retelling a story. Once I figured that part out, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. That's when I started painting the horned toad. So it was my way to reconnect with my grandfather, and at the same time retell my childhood story. So that's the reason why I paint the horned toad, is because of my grandfather. I see my grandfather in each horned toad painting I make. And I see the stories, and I see just that memory, and I'm at the same time I'm making my own story.
Gotcha.
So, and I love the fact that it sets me apart from everybody else too.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I said in the beginning, I was lost and I was trying to find myself, and just like every other artist tries to find their own technique or their medium, what they're gonna do. And my grandpa helped me do that.
I see. Yeah. Then so for those that don't know, traditionally and culturally speaking, the horned toad is the grandfather, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we look at him for protection, wisdom, and knowledge.
Yep.
And so whenever you're fortunate enough to come across one, you say hello and you pick him up and you give a prayer. You rub him on your chest.
Yeah.
On your chest for good luck. What my grandfather used to do is he would he would always have a handkerchief with him, and when he found one, he would lay out the handkerchief in his hand, and he would put the horn toad on top of that handkerchief, and then he would sprinkle some corn pollen on it, and he would do a prayer. And I was just a child. I was looking at him, and I was wondering why. At the time, I was too young to understand, but my grandfather gave so much respect to this little lizard, which I thought was just a lizard at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I see him praying, and that memory just stuck with me. And soon after the prayer, he would kind of let the horn toad go, and whatever fell off the horn toad's back and back onto the handkerchief, he poured that back inside his medicine pouch. And as I got older, and I asked him one day why he did that, and he was telling me that it's more stronger that way. It just created something more potent and for protection and prayer.
I see.
And so, and it's those small memories that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just really fortunate that I could create something that's where somebody can understand.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Yeah, I think the one painting I saw, I think I'm pretty sure I saw it on Facebook. The one before I came here, like the one that really stuck out to me was the one with the horn toad, and I think he was guiding somebody, and it was more of a silhouette of a horn toad, I think, and so he was guiding, and
Okay.
it looked a lot like protection, and it was mesmerizing, you know. It's really
Awesome.
interesting.
Thank you.
What about as far as like accomplishments? I mean, as an artist and someone who stays humble, I bet you look at every painting as an accomplishment, right? But like, do you have any works that have gone beyond maybe the Navination, or like your murals, things like that? Like, what would you consider your greatest accomplishment, I guess?
Bringing it back home, I would say, because growing up, my longest trips were just from home to school and from school back home.
Yeah.
And on that bus ride, you wouldn't see any art at all. So I think my biggest accomplishment is bringing it home here where I live, because aside from the canvases that I paid on and the ones that are here that nobody will see yet, the ones that are out there, the murals that I've created in my hometown of Shonto, my relatives and my family, the people driving through, when they see that, they're landmarks. You don't really see this anywhere else, and I think I'm the luckiest person for bringing that here.
Yeah.
And in that way, I feel like I'm leaving something behind, for the kids, for an elder to look at something that I've made and understand the direction that I'm going.
Yeah. So, when I was planning out, like when I was telling Brian about certain people that I'm meeting with, and Brian, my tech guy. Yeah. So I was talking to him about coming out here to help me set up the equipment. He was asking who I'm meeting with next, and I I gave him your name, and he said, "Oh, well, what's this going to be about?" And I was, "Oh, we're going to talk about art." And he was asking like, do I know of him? And I was like, "Oh, well," you might. And I said, "Have you seen a lot of those murals? Like, some of them are on abandoned gas stations and things like that." He's like, "Oh, yeah." So I pointed out the ones down here at the at Crossroads, and then the one by Black Mesa, and he said, "Oh, so that's in a sense, like, for someone who has no connections to the reservation, to think that."
Yeah.
They're seeing your work, and it kind of made me think like this guy has no idea who it is, but for him to also know to just pick it up right off the bat, I feel like that shows some level of appreciation. That,
yeah.
and then one thing I was talking with, because after working at Page for so long, I would talk with a lot of tourists, and they're so mesmerized by the location everywhere around us. All the sandstones and Page, to just the drive, the mountains and everything. And they'll talk to me about, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I said, yeah, well, it's not a big deal to me. And they're so obsessed with how beautiful it looks, right? And so they'll tell me like, oh, you have no idea what you're looking at. You have no idea, how lucky you are to live around here. And so, growing up, I've seen all these landmarks. It's not a big deal to me. And then when artists such as yourself put them into paintings, and you kind of paint them from your perspective, then it takes me back to mesmerizing, and I kind of see for the first time what tourists see. I see for the first time again, and again, it's like it's really one of those mesmerizing things to see.
Yeah.
What would you consider as your most difficult project? Something you've actually, or yeah, what would you consider your hardest project?
Well, you got me there. I don't.
Is it just not difficult? Like, or not, I want to say not difficult, but is it more fun, so that takes away from the difficulty?
I think they're all difficult.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. When you're working every day,
Yeah.
and when you're doing something that you just absolutely love, that it doesn't become hard anymore. It just becomes so much easier to just kind of live and let loose.
Uh-huh.
So all the ones that I've made, I can just pull back and remember a certain time or a certain brush stroke, and it was a stepping stone for me. So I've always put it out there as just trying to be the person to just do everything just right there, right then and there, and get it done.
Gotcha.
I've never been much of a planner, and that kind of gets me in trouble sometimes too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. How do certain places reach out to you for murals? Because I know, like, setting up our meeting was actually kind of difficult because you were so busy.
Yeah, I think 2021 is the busiest I have been in the past 6 years, because I started in it's going to be 6 years on the 25th of this month.
Wow.
And I always appreciate those free murals that I did, because those are the ones that actually got me the work.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy to say that I have 47 murals out there, and I have about 30 to 35 scheduled.
Really?
So I've never been this busy, and at the same time, I'm trying to keep up with my orders.
Uh-huh.
And it's hard, because if you're the artist and you have to pay the bills, and you have to package, and you have to go get more prints yourself,
Uh-huh.
it's like I wish I had somebody helping me.
Uh-huh.
But nobody can paint for me while I go over here and print, or when I go in here and package. And packaging takes a long time when you're doing it yourself.
I see. So to let everybody know, like, where are some of your murals? Where can people find your work if they want to take a look?
I have one in North Dakota, which was my very first mural. It was a daycare center. One of my followers just loved my work, and they wanted to upgrade their daycare center, and they asked me to come paint on their walls, and I've never done that before, and she just really believed in me, so that was the door that opened up everything for me. So when I came home, because when I was living out there, I wasn't painting horned toads.
Uh-huh.
I was just painting sunsets, storms, animals, portraits every now and then. So I was just paying the bills. But when I moved home, it was the eye opener. And it's kind of addicting too, because when you're a mural artist, everywhere you go, everything just becomes a canvas.
Yeah.
And so when I moved back here, there's just so much potential around here. So along the roads of Highway 160, headed towards Navajo Mountain on Route 16, some in Page. There's going to be some that will be going up in Gray Mountain again, and Kayenta, Tuba City. There's like my little tiny triangle between Kayenta, Tuba City, and Page.
Yeah.
Water tanks here and there. A lot of the free ones that I do are from the roadside, and I do them for free because I have an idea and I just have to go do it, and at the same time I'm covering up profanity or graffiti writing, and then I'm putting something on there that's traditional.
Yeah.
That when the buses start running again, the kids are going to drive by and they're going to remember that location, and it might even inspire them to go and do something,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
themselves or their family.
I see. Do you have any work that's been showcased or published? Maybe like in a magazine or Navajo Times at least?
That's another one of my problems too, is I don't really connect with
Gotcha.
anybody.
Yeah.
I see a lot of my friends in the art world. They're getting shined on. They're getting if it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
They're getting their work out there, and I'm just here trying to pay the bills. I'm just here paying. I don't know if I'm pretty sure my work will get in a magazine one day.
Oh, definitely.
It's been in some newspapers, and I don't know. I'm kind of more focused on where I grew up rather than getting my work out there.
Gotcha. Have you struggled with fatigue? I don't know how to explain it from an artist's point of view, but have you ever had a issue where it just seemed like you had a hard time putting your work into a canvas, or kind of finding inspiration for a mural? Like,
No.
no.
I think I think my work speaks for itself, and if it gets out there, more power to it, more power to the people that are trying to get my work out there. But as far as my paintings, I think what makes me famous is my murals.
Yeah.
So it's kind of free publicity.
When people reach out to you, like if you're not just gonna go out and do it yourself, when people reach out to you, maybe like a small business or something, do they have an idea of what they want showcased on their whatever canvas they give you? Do they tell you like, oh, I kind of want this kind of angle, or do they just give you free range to be
In the beginning it was kind of like that, but lately, the past year, it's been pretty much do what you want. We love your work, and we know it's going to be great in the end. So I'm like, thank you. And I love those kind of clients that just let me roll the dice with whatever colors, angles, or designs, size. It just, I don't know. It's been going that direction, so it's really big.
Yeah.
Green light for me to do that.
Awesome. How about like, do you ever get anybody who critiques your work? Someone who tells you, maybe that's not what they were looking for, or maybe like posts on Facebook. Do you ever get like negative reactions, or things like that?
I think in the beginning.
And how did you I want to say cope with some negativity you might receive?
Yeah, I don't really get put in that position a lot, but I remember the ones that I do when that happens, and it was just kind of mainly in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was always grateful for those kind of comments, because I mean, you can't have the good without the negative and stuff. So I was it helped me a lot with, how I communicate with people and how I present myself and my work. So there was another stepping stone for me. So I always appreciate those negative comments. But,
Gotcha.
it doesn't hold me back in any way.
Uh-huh. If you don't mind, do you mind showing some of your
Yeah.
art?
What's your view? Like, should I put it right here or?
Oh, yeah, that's
Turn
actually a
around.
good angle.
Okay. I don't know if this is gonna glare or if you can see it.
Oh, it looks pretty good from here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of tell me about what you
Okay.
were feeling, or.
Always going back to the horned toad. It's what separates me from everybody else. There's only one other person that paints a horned toad, and we've become really good friends. His name is Elwin, and he is at the moment in Santa Fe taking classes for IAIA.
Yeah.
And, once we found each other through social media, through the horned toad, he was looking through Instagram, and I came across his photos one day, and we just clicked, and to this day, it's just been kind of him and I just kind of on this adventure with the horned toad.
Gotcha.
He'll paint them realistically, and they're really, really extremely good work. I'm not as detailed as he is, but what I like to play with is the colors.
Yeah.
I'm always changing the colors.
Uh-huh.
And this particular position and angle, I would recreate time and time and again. It's something that I could pretty much do right away.
Yeah.
And you can see that I was playing with some of the spray paint and designs, paper cutouts and templates.
Yeah.
And something like this, I would run and sell for around about 1,200, give or take.
Wow.
And I'm just pretty much playing with the idea, and I'm kind of teaching myself with every one that I make.
I see.
And this one is a protection piece that somebody could have at their home.
Yeah.
And here, before I get to the one that's behind me,
Okay.
a lot of the paintings that I make,
Uh-huh.
sorry,
No, you're good.
it's all dusty in here. A lot of the paintings that I make, I'm telling a story. And in this particular painting, I took my kids camping about a year ago near Poetically.
Yeah.
And they were all playing. We were clearing the area, and they're kind of making the area that we're camping safe for the night. And I'm just watching them, and they're playing at the same time and telling a joke. And in that moment, I had that idea. And I saw them in my mind dancing with the horned toad.
Uh-huh.
And the view, the lighting, the sun going down, getting dark, but yet the brightness of the fire and the silhouette and the shape, the shadows they were casting.
Yeah.
Once I got home, I had to hurry up and capture what I saw. And a lot of the paintings that I do of the horned toad, they're actually going to be going into a children's book that I'm working on.
Really?
And when I do that, I want to write it both in Navajo and English.
Uh-huh.
And you can see where I get my inspiration from in this painting. Being out in the wilderness,
Yeah.
my kids, my grandfather, and just the colors of the night sky.
Gotcha.
So you can kind of see where my inspiration comes from in this painting.
Definitely.
So this one, they're going to be dancing and playing with the horned toad.
I would love to hear, people who are into like those college courses where their job or like their assignment is to break down, feelings and
Yeah.
deeper messages within paintings. I've always kind of been one to brush those off. You know, art was something I could not look at abstract. But I was wondering, so the darker silhouette on the, can you hold it up again? Just so I
Yeah,
get the angle.
yeah.
Let me go back to this angle. So yeah, the dark silhouette in the corner, um, the one kind of towards the back on the
On the
back
left,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that one, my initial reaction before you explained that, I thought maybe might have been like, um, almost like someone who wasn't there.
Oh,
But yeah, just because like
yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
I initially thought it was one who didn't, because he didn't have a shadow. And then
Yeah,
again with the horned toad, like you said,
yeah,
being your grandfather, who
yeah.
could, who's there protecting them, you know.
That's true.
But and,
Well, in this one, I'm actually I'm not done with this one.
oh, I got you.
Yeah. So some paintings I'll put down.
Hmm.
If I'm just putting colors on the canvas, it's I'm not in that moment. So what I'll do is I'll actually put the canvas away,
Okay.
start a new one, or pick up one of my other ones and work on it too. So a lot of the paintings that I have here, a lot of them aren't finished unless they're in the studio or sold.
Really?
Yeah, so all the ones I have here, I'm still working on.
Gotcha.
And then this one behind me, I'm just playing with the idea of the place where I love to go hiking. I love going hiking over here, upper Navajo Canyon area,
Yeah.
which from here it's probably about 10-minute drive, and then onto the dirt road. And the canyon is literally just right there, right off the highway.
Yeah.
And if you walk, if you give it some time, you'll find that one tree. And my kids and I always do this when we go hiking. We
Hmm.
look for that one particular tree that separates itself from all the other trees. And I always go back to painting the juniper tree.
Yeah.
And in this one, I painted it like it's reaching for water near the edge of the canyon, because you'll only find the really twisted ones near the edge growing on rocks.
Really.
And the ones that are out here in the flat land areas, they're all straight.
Uh-huh.
But the ones that are growing, they don't really get much water, so
True.
that's why they're all twisted.
Huh. So
And in this one, it's almost like a feeling, like you were saying.
yeah.
It's almost sad in a way. And it's almost like, why by the edge? Why right there? Like there's a drop.
Uh-huh.
Like it's growing until it falls, in a way. So it's almost sad. But it's, when I have that idea, I just can't shake it until I show everybody what exactly I'm thinking about.
Gotcha.
And I'm always playing with the colors. I guess that's what kind of separates me too, is a lot of my abstract colors. I don't really make everything as natural as it should be.
Uh-huh. I never would have noticed that.
Yeah.
The distinction about, the twisted trees.
Yeah.
Like I was obsessed with the outdoors when I was a kid. My mom lived near the mesa. And so as a kid, I couldn't let my son do it now, but as a kid, I did do a lot of walking by myself through the trees. And I mean, yeah, from my perspective, everything was just a tree. Everything was more along the lines of something you could play with. But that's definitely an interesting distinction to make.
Yeah. When I was working out there, it was pretty much every day, going to work, coming home. Maybe came home for Christmas. Came home for just small events.
Uh-huh.
But when I started painting and when I moved home, it was a really big eye-opener for me. Like you were saying, we're familiar with this area, with all the canyons and ruins and monuments.
Yeah.
But when I came home, I had a different perspective. It wasn't about sunset paintings anymore.
Uh-huh.
It was the canyons, the trees, the livestock. Everything just came back. So I came home and it was like an awakening for me. So a lot of my inspiration, apart from my family, is the place that I grew up.
I see. Um, have you ever been towards like been to Yosemite National Park?
No,
No? Man, I
no.
would love to see what you come back with if you go out there.
Yeah. See, that's what I would tell a lot of my friends. You got to be in that moment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Googling doesn't really help a lot.
Yeah.
It's much more breathtaking if you actually go out there and do the footwork yourself, do
Yeah.
the painting.
See,
Yeah,
Yosemite and Redwood. In my opinion, Yosemite is the most beautiful place on earth.
yeah,
Um, I'm obsessed with. Me and my wife are planning a family vacation out that way. This coming later on this year. We just want to take a drive up that way. That and then maybe like Redwood National Forest.
yeah,
Just saying in here, I would love to see what you come back with if you were to take a
yeah,
look at those things, man.
yeah. I would. I'm pretty sure you would, you would see from a painting that I've made of where I've been.
Oh man. Um, are there any places you plan on? Like, do you plan on traveling for work, does it just spur of the moment?
Um, yeah, I'm better on my shoes than I am with my ideas.
God.
If it happens,
Uh-huh.
I guess I'll roll with the punches and see what happens. Um, everything's an opportunity for me. Um, I'm just really fortunate to have met the people that I have met,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have met them or have even known them if I didn't even paint at all. And I didn't even know anything about Shonto or the White Thorns
Uh-huh.
when I was in school,
Yeah.
or when I was out there working. I didn't know anything about that stuff until I started painting and I came home. And it was a whole new world, a different door that I opened, and just meeting different people from different walks of life, and doing some collaborations with them,
Yeah.
and becoming part of different groups around the area. I really, I hold that kind of experience really close. Being a member of Art of the People, um, or working with Chip Thomas,
Yeah.
the Paint It Desert Project. He's the one that really, really inspired me to push my mural work, because he would bring artists from all over, from Italy, from New York, from
Really?
California, here to our little
Wow.
reservation in Arizona. And I would have the opportunity to work with them, and I learned a lot off of their different styles and techniques, and just the way they worked. And I put that into my own technique, and made it my own.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people can look at something that I've made and like, yeah, that looks like a Daniel Josley painting.
Man, that's awesome. So, where has some of your work gone? Like, do you have any buyers that are off the reservation? Any people you've had to send work to
Oh
other
yeah,
states?
I'm always to me, my followers and my friends, and it seems like they're just right there. Like they just live in Page, they just live in Kienta. To me, that's my whole world up here. Until they purchase a painting, and I have that conversation, and I find out this person's from like New York or Italy
Wow.
or Canada, and I was like, wow. And I would ask them, how did you ever come across
Yeah.
a Navajo artist from Shonto and you're buying my work?
Uh-huh.
Most times it would be through a friend, or they're traveling through the area one day and saw my name on a wall with a mural and started following me. And I always thought this person that I'm talking to that would like or comment is like from Page or Flagstaff.
Yeah.
They're from outside the country, yet they follow my work, and it just blows my mind when I have that conversation. But yeah, always mailing here and there all over the U.S.
See, that's just right now. That's my immediate reaction. Is I really assume. Well, I wouldn't say I assume, but like you said, even seeing, I've seen the comments on some of your work, and my immediate assumption is Page, Flagstaff,
Yeah.
Phoenix, and just hearing that you've had work overseas,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's really cool. Like, oh man. And so the main way they reach out to you is through Facebook or just through those posts in
Yeah.
particular?
See, even right now I have a website, but it's not really as functional as I want it to be.
Uh-huh.
Like I wish I would one day get it to that point where it's operating and running itself.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not, I don't really know how to use that I don't really know, I don't have that knowledge.
Yeah.
And every now and then I will get together with I call him my manager. Every time we hang out, we went to school together. His name's Casey. He's living in New Mexico, but he was the one that created my website for me.
Yeah.
And at times he'll come out when I'm doing a show or I'm doing a sale. Every now and then we'll hang out and we'll cross paths and just share some stories and spark some new ideas. And he's a really, really wonderful photographer too. And I admire his work and I want to, use his ideas and capture and make a book of these murals.
Yeah.
All around. It would be like a 1, 2, 3 on how to do a mural if you pick that book up. And we always just kind of talk about and always come back to that.
I see. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. It had something to do with your work out there. Do you ever fear of people like reselling your work? Maybe trying to claim it as their own? Because I know when I used to work at like even places like the Black Mesa store, because that was like my first job when I was a kid. I worked there, and one of our manager at the time, or the manager that used to manage that store, he did not like it when tourists would want to take pictures of the work that was in there. It was like a no photography store, and I want to say prejudice, but he was more afraid of tourists buying the jewelry rather than typical natives just wanting jewelry. And really, it was only because it was this fear of like it's not illegal, but like kind of trading work and claiming it as their own, or would you feel like that's more advertisement for you for them to take it overseas and then sell it somewhere else for
in the beginning I used to think that way.
Yeah.
Other artists would kind of ask me what I would do in that situation too.
Uh-huh.
And I guess I didn't really think about it at the time until I witnessed it firsthand when I sold an original painting to an elderly buyer guy, I guess.
Yeah.
And when I was selling it to him, I was really explaining what I put into the painting.
Yeah.
And at the time he was telling me he can't afford something like this. And having that conversation with him, I wanted to help him out too. So I brought that price down, and it was almost like I gave it to him.
Uh-huh.
And later down the road, and it was only several days later, I drove to a gallery in Monument Valley. I was looking around too, admiring jewelry, and then boom, I see my painting right there.
Wow.
And it had a price on it. And I saw the guy, and in my mind I thought it was something that he wanted.
Yeah.
I thought I was helping him out. I thought this was going to go inside this person's house and he was going to share the story with everybody else, but he was looking for a good deal so that he could profit off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first encounter of that. But over the years, all PR is good PR. It's what Shonto would always tell me. And especially Bahi, Whitethorn, he would always, we had this particular conversation about how if somebody's reselling my work out there, it's still PR, it's still getting your name out there.
Uh-huh.
And if you put, if you would take something like that and hold it against somebody, that's just a burden on yourself. And whatever you made is still going to get out there, and people are still going to see it.
Yeah.
And if your name's on it and it's somewhere on the other side of the world and somebody sees that, even though it's been resold over time and again, you know, somebody's going to look you up and say, hey, like, I like your work, and I'll have new followers. So
yeah,
it's kind of still a positive, I would say.
how did you handle seeing this guy reselling your work? So you said this was your the first initial instance where that happened to you, right?
Yeah, and this was, shoot, it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
How did you feel? Like, were you angry, or did you happen to buy it back? Did you take it back, or did you just kind of brush it off and say, oh well?
Yeah, I kind of told myself in a way that this is going to happen over and over again. Maybe it happens all the time, and I just don't know about it. And so, you know, if he sold it, I'm pretty sure somebody who really loves it's going to have it in their house.
They're actually going to appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The painting's going to find its own way. And
sure.
Maybe one day even find its way back to me. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, yeah. Do you ever plan on, well, I'm sure you do, kind of starting from the studio, do you want to expand, maybe like have your own gallery sometime, or
one day. As an artist, I think we all want that.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's extremely hard. You gotta be a salesman almost every day to try to make sure the truck's paid for.
Yeah.
Phones are on. You got gas and food, family first. And I know it's gonna pay off. I don't see a negative to what I'm doing. I know one day, everything that I can create, that I have created, I can even pass that on to my grandkids.
Yeah.
And show them the ropes on how to make some extra money, something they can fall back on, and making a legacy. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, one day. I still say it's the beginning for me still. Still learning.
Is there, you know how like musicians can get signed to like a record label? Is there something like that for artists, or is this mostly like, is there a place that you would actually go through that would publish your work for you and do things like that? Because, you know, with musicians, they get signed to a record label, the record kind of tells them the direction they want to go, and then the record labels is what helps distribute their properties. Is there something like that for artists, or is it really just all on you guys' own?
I believe they do that, but I've never actually seen any of my friends in the art industry that have that for them. I guess maybe only the White Thorns and Shonto that I know of.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know it was hard for them in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna make them go out of their way to try to hand me that stepping ladder to try to have my paintings right next to theirs in a gallery.
Yeah.
And I'd appreciate it more if one day I would look back and think it was like I did it. Like I didn't ask for handouts.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. It has to be hard.
Mm-hmm. I think so. This is just me spitballing, but I think, you know, one thing I would love to see is people such as yourself, like you, Shonto, you know, all these artists just in this little corner of the Navajo Nation. Like, can you imagine what's on the different sides of the Navajo Nation? And I would love to see you guys put on this kind of what's it called? Is it a gallery? Like where
like they have in like the museum?
Yeah, and it'd be nice to see all of you guys come together and in an area where we can all appreciate our native artists. I mean, that's kind of what I want to do with what I'm doing now, is my goal is to expose Native people. I want them to get exposure. I want them to be seen by people just outside the Navajo Nation. It'd be really cool to see all of our Native artists come together and
Yeah.
get the proper exposure that they deserve. Like, because like you said, it's not only is it hard as any kind of artist who's wanting to make a name for themselves, you have this extra stepping stone you have to deal with coming from the Navajo Nation because we don't have these outlets. Like I mentioned earlier before we start rolling or shooting. Like I said, I was into politics. Coming from the Navajo Nation, we don't have a lot of outlets. We don't have the same outlets that people have, even just in people like places like Page or especially Phoenix, where there's somebody next door. There's 100 people within, a half-mile radius. You don't have that exposure. So I think finding some way to provide a way for all you Native artists to come together and to kind of overcome this obstacle, it'd be a nice thing to see. It'd be an amazing thing to see.
It would be. It would be, yes. And I think if I ever got to that point, I'd try to bring who I can with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who kind of are passionate about what they do, or I don't want to speak for anybody who's passionate about what they do, but it's funny because you find them not critiquing other people's work, but like critiquing what's on TV, because TV is always over exaggerated. Do you ever watch TV and just kind of think like, TV shows where it has to do with graffiti or artistic movies? Do you kind of find yourself critiquing like, no, that's not how it works, or they could do things better? Do you find yourself just
I don't think I critique as much or at all.
yeah?
I always remember how it was when I was painting, and I was kind of like try to think about it. It was I guess I'm still learning on that part, because there's only one person that I go back to if there was any kind of critiquing. Johnson Yazzie. I've learned a lot from his work. He would always be critiquing his own work and showing me the apostrophe in a painting that he has. He's in for a particular color, interacting, twisting and turning. And he would ask me to critique his work, or he would come over and critique my work.
Yeah.
And he would always tell me things like, kind of remember, like, take in everything in that moment about when somebody's talking to you about your work. And I was just listening and learning, and I'm always a sponge when it comes to Johnson Yazzie's critique work.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm still learning about that part.
But
I have a lot of respect for him and what he does. It's different when you're right there and he's telling you. Everything just kind of becomes quiet and you just start listening, paying attention to what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But somebody I really, really look up to and have a lot of respect for.
Gotcha. Do you think, for me, again, like I said, I'm nowhere near artistic, right? And I've always wondered about like art schools. I've had an interest in art because it's amazing what artists can do, and I always know I can't draw, but do you think what's taught in art schools as far as like how like what's blend, like what colors complement each other and things like that, is that something that can be taught, or do you feel like?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I use a lot of the memories when I'm painting. It always goes back to my high school memories. I believe he still works up there at the high school. Rory Josley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I still remember the teachings that he taught me, and um, I still need to complete a painting for the high school as well, and it would just be a free painting that I would just donate.
Uh-huh.
And he gave me a canvas for it, which I still have, and will one day complete when I can fit it into my schedule.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the small teachings that really stick with you,
Oh, I see.
and you can only learn it in one place, a school or somebody just right there with you, doing a little bit of collaboration. And so, but on my work, after working, it was all mainly self-taught, apart from the assignments that we used to have back in high school.
Uh-huh.
The ones that I do right now, it's like pretty much self-taught.
I see.
I'm pretty sure I would be a little bit better if I had some schooling behind me.
Yeah, so like that's where my curiosity comes from, is I feel like especially with something like art, kind of like singing, you're kind of just bored with it.
Yeah.
um I've always felt like art school is only for you if you can draw. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my opinion, I've always thought.
I think it. Well, I don't. Yeah, that's where I don't see it that way.
Uh-huh.
I believe anybody can do it. Sometimes you don't even know that they have that ability until they actually pick up something and like fall in love with it. Art of the people, I see them do that every time they go out and do shows. There'll be people walking into their tent that have sometimes never even picked up a paintbrush,
Uh-huh.
but yet they'll put the apron on, and that little spark, and they'll start playing with paint, and maybe they know how to blend, maybe they don't, but
Uh-huh.
it's a start for them, and you don't always have to be the person with the most knowledge of
Yeah.
drawing or painting.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just kind of happen, and I love how art of the people they do that.
How long does the average canvas, like this one behind you, or the horn toad down here, how long did that take you?
Some paintings take me years.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes, even if it's as small as an 8x10,
Uh-huh.
months. But it's about being in that moment again.
Yeah.
Some paintings I can do within a day, with maybe even 30 minutes to an hour.
Uh-huh.
It's always having to come back and pick yourself back up. Which is why some of these paintings behind me, I'll start one, and I'll put one down, and I'll start another one.
Uh-huh.
There's not really a time frame for me. You can't put time on feelings.
How do you feel about when people complain about the prices of because I saw this really long post on Facebook one time about this person, it was screenshots of an artist and a buyer going back and forth about the price, and the buyer was getting frustrated because it wasn't painting, it was I think it was a rug. Yeah, I think it was a rug, or it might have been pottery making, I can't be too sure, but they were going back and forth because the buyer felt like that it was priced way too high.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about people who get mad when the prices seem too extreme towards them?
To each his own. I think if you're going to argue about a price, because a lot of the work that we do, that my friends and I create, to us it's priceless.
Yeah.
Through somebody else's eyes, they're comparing us to a painting that they bought somewhere in a store. So you don't know if that one, you can't compare how much had more heart or how much had more time or more technique.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth Whitethorn at least told me to find a price that I'm comfortable with and try to stick with it even through time. Being that if I have a buyer from 3 years ago that I sold a particular price
Uh-huh.
to remember that and always come back to the price that you had. It it confuses people when you keep changing your price.
Yeah.
But it's really helpful if you uh, stick with your numbers and try not to let anybody change you and your price.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the ones behind me are priceless, but until it's in a home, I got to pay for my truck and I got to go buy some food and pay the bills.
Definitely. I think the part that the understanding that where I understand it from is, like you said, some paintings take years, and when you divide your asking price into the work put into it per hour, and so that again, that's where this whole post comes back to is, the artist broke down all of his expenses on his materials to, no, I think it must have been a woman. I don't remember. I can't remember. But she broke down her expenses to how much it cost for her to make her product, and then the amount of hours that went into the project. From there, she broke it down by her asking price to the hours she spent, and when she was selling it to the buyer, she kind of showed him that the price realistically was like $4 an hour, depending on how long her work took. So if you were to take, like, for example, your 1,200 and you divide it by, like you said, maybe years, the amount of hours you put into it, you're asking lower than minimum wage, right? In some cases for your work, when you divide it into the hours. I think what a lot of people don't understand is the work that goes into it, because you're buying something as a whole piece, and you're not understanding that this person put again hours into it. They're realistically getting paid below minimum wage at the end of the finished product.
Now you're making things more complex for me. Because I'd simplify everything, and I like that about my life, is just keeping everything simple. I stay within the ranges of size,
Uh-huh.
size and detail.
Uh-huh.
My more detailed pieces are, of course, higher price,
Yeah.
and the size, of course, the packaging. I just go by those small factors.
Yeah.
I don't look at time. I don't look at material.
Uh-huh.
Well, unless if it's a mural project, yeah,
Yeah.
then I have to do that. I have to go onto my my list that I've created that will allow me to situate time, labor, height, length.
Yeah.
Try to have everything for that invoice, and everything has to be legitimized before I can actually start the process of painting. So what you're talking about with keeping track of and managing that sort of process, I only use that for my murals.
Oh yeah, no. So I was just putting out an example, like, to give people who think that artists charge too much. I was just giving an example of what realistically would go on behind the scenes to put into perspective, because people complain about $15, but if you multiply 15 times so many hours,
Yeah.
it's nothing compared to this. This person's literally putting below minimum wage into their passion, and you're trying to tell this person that their work, what they do, shouldn't be so expensive. And from a buyer's perspective, when people say things like that, to me it's ridiculous. But yeah, I wasn't saying you should break it down like that. Just to give an example, most artists realistically work below minimum wage, and I think as buyers, people need to respect their price. It's their passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where was I going? Where can people find your work before we close this out?
In my group, Persistence Art Gallery on Facebook. That's kind of the one place I'm always posting everything before I go to Instagram, which is at Daniel Josley. I hardly get onto my website. I think a lot of it plays in a part where my network, I don't really have good internet, so I can't really upload videos or photos or go live if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram and Facebook and my website. And it should be just, yeah, those main things.
Gotcha. All right. Do you have any future shows?
Oh yeah, one coming up here on the 26th in Santa Fe at a hotel called La Fonda's. It's going to be the 26th, 27th, and 28th. I'm going to be doing a live show painting and doing a small presentation.
Yeah.
And yeah, that should be my only show. Other than that, it's if other artists want to do a collaboration, I can always get in touch and see if we can do a wall somewhere.
Nice. Okay. So before we close this out one more time, Persistence in Arts. Persistence Art.
In Art. Yeah.
Okay. On Facebook.
Persistenceinarts.com.